I'm 28, male, logistics coordinator for a mid-sized freight company in Columbus, Ohio. I make $67,000 a year. I show up, I do my job, and I have never once expected anyone to carry me financially. That last part matters a lot to this story. My girlfriend and I had been together for 2.5 years. We moved in together about 8 months before all of this went down. A 2-bedroom in Grandview Heights, $1,850 a month, split evenly. She worked at a marketing agency, making $48,000 a year. On paper, we were a normal couple building something together. That's what I thought, anyway. She was really into the whole lifestyle content thing. Posting outfits, coffee shop aesthetics, sunset reels, that kind of stuff. I didn't care. Plenty of people do that as a hobby. What started bothering me was when the hobby started eating into the responsibilities. Around month 5 of us living together, she mentioned she was stretched thin and asked if I could cover rent, just for a month or 2, while she figured things out. I did it. I know. By month 7, I was still covering it. And she had 127 followers. Her mom, her college friends, a few random accounts that probably belonged to bots. Her most engaged follower was her cousin who liked everything out of what I can only assume was family loyalty. Then came the Tuesday night that cracked everything open. We were eating takeout. She'd stopped cooking around the same time she stopped paying rent, another thing that had just quietly shifted, and she put her phone face down on the table like she was about to say something serious. I genuinely thought she was going to tell me she was pregnant. I braced for it. Instead, she said, "I've been thinking a lot, and I'm going to quit my job. Go full-time content creator." I set my fork down. Okay. I need you to support us while I build it. Just for like a year. Maybe 2. I looked at her. Then at the phone. Then back at her. You have 127 followers. Everyone starts somewhere. Emma Chamberlain had 0 once. Emma Chamberlain is not a useful reference point for this conversation. She leaned forward with this specific look she developed, the one where she reframes your completely reasonable pushback as emotional cruelty. I thought you believed in me. I believe in you doing this on the side while you keep your job, like a person who's actually trying to build something. I can't do both. I need to be all in. I make $67,000 a year. In Columbus, Ohio. Our rent alone. We could find a cheaper place. We signed a lease extension 4 weeks ago. She blinked. Then she picked up her phone, which was her way of ending a conversation she wasn't winning. I'll quit next Friday either way. I just thought you'd be supportive. She said it with this calm finality, like she'd already decided and was just notifying me. Then she went to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat there with cold pad thai and this slowly growing feeling that I'd been cast as the villain in a story where I was actually just the guy being asked to bankroll a fantasy. I smiled at her before she walked away. I told her to follow her dreams. And then I started making calls. Here's something most people don't know about apartment leases in Ohio. If you're the primary leaseholder, the one whose name is first on the agreement, the one whose credit was pulled, whose income was verified, you hold more legal weight than someone added as an occupant later. She'd been added to our lease as an occupant in month 2 of living together. I was the primary leaseholder. I called the leasing office the next morning from my car before work. The property manager confirmed I could end the lease at the next renewal window, which aligned almost exactly with the end of our recent extension, about 7 weeks out. I'd need to give 30 days written notice. I gave it that afternoon. Written notice, certified mail, copy sent to the leasing office email. I didn't tell her. Now here's the part where I need to explain something, because I secretly ended our lease and didn't tell her sounds cold. Over the next 3 weeks, I watched what she actually did with her full-time creator plans after she quit her job the following Friday, exactly like she said she would. She bought a ring light. She bought a $900 mirrorless camera on our joint credit card. We'd opened that card 8 months earlier for household emergencies. She bought a Lightroom subscription, 2 influencer posing courses from some website, and booked a weekend trip to Nashville with her friend. Content trip, she called it. All on that card. After 3 weeks of this, her follower count was at 138. She'd gained 11 followers. She'd also stopped mentioning rent entirely. Like the act of deciding to quit had just dissolved her half of the financial obligation by some invisible force. I paid that month's rent. Then I called the credit card company, had my name removed from the joint account, and flagged the recent charges. I opened a new account at a completely different bank and redirected my direct deposit. Then I found a studio apartment 6 blocks away. $875 a month. I signed the lease on a Wednesday. She knew about none of it. The Friday before I planned to tell her. I'd given myself a deadline. I wasn't going to just vanish. She escalated in a way I truly did not see coming. I came home to find her mother sitting in our living room. Her mother, who lived in Cincinnati, who had driven 2.5 hours on a weekday afternoon with no warning, no text, nothing. My girlfriend sat across from her like they'd staged an intervention. And on the coffee table, I am not making this up, there was a printed document. Printed. Bulleted. Titled Partnership and Support Agreement. She had typed this up herself. 3 pages. It outlined my obligation to cover all household expenses for 18 months while she pursued content creation as a primary income vehicle. It had a clause, an actual written clause, stating I agreed not to pressure or undermine her creative journey through negative commentary. Her mother looked at me and said, "We just want to make sure you're both on the same page." I picked up the document. I read all 3 pages. I set it back down. "This isn't legally enforceable," I said. "It's about commitment," my girlfriend said. "It's about showing me you're in this. You used our emergency credit card to buy a camera and fly to Nashville." Her mother cut in smoothly. "She's investing in her future. Your future together. That's what partners do." I looked at her mother, then at my girlfriend, then at the document one more time. "I need a few days to think about this," I said. They both smiled. They absolutely thought that was a yes. I used those few days to finish moving out. Not in a panic, slowly, methodically. Over 4 evenings while she was out at coffee shops shooting content, I moved my things. Clothes, personal documents, my grandfather's watch, my work laptop, my half of the kitchen. I left everything that was hers. I left some of my own furniture too, because I didn't want any angle for her to claim I'd taken things that weren't mine. I kept it clean. I also spent $150 on a tenants' rights attorney consultation during this time, who confirmed everything I'd done was legally sound. The lease non-renewal notice was valid and properly served. She had no legal claim to the apartment after the term ended. The partnership agreement she'd printed was unenforceable, as I suspected. The credit card situation was being handled correctly through the issuer. The attorney put it plainly, "You're not obligated to announce your exit before executing it, as long as you've met your legal notice requirements," which you have. On a Saturday morning while she was at brunch, more content, I did one final walkthrough of the apartment, left my key on the kitchen counter, walked out. Then I blocked her on everything. Phone, email, Instagram, all of it. Her mother too. Her friend who'd been texting me things like, "Real men support their partners." All of it. Done. I waited for the guilt that first night in my studio on a borrowed air mattress. It didn't come. What came was quiet. Real, physical quiet. I hadn't realized how loud the previous months had been until I was out of them. Now here's where it gets more complicated because she didn't just let it go. She showed up at my office building. I work somewhere with a lobby desk, so she didn't get past the front, but she made enough noise that my manager came to me asking what was going on. I explained it briefly and professionally. He nodded, said he'd have security, keep an eye out, and that was that. She left a long note on my windshield that I photographed for documentation and didn't read fully. She had her mother call my mother. This is where things got briefly messy, because my mom called me saying she'd heard I abandoned my girlfriend without warning. I sent my mother a clear, organized breakdown, the lease timeline, the credit card statements showing the Nashville trip and the camera purchase, a photo of the support agreement, and a summary of the attorney consultation. There was a pause on the phone. My mom said, "Oh." That one word was enough. Then came the social media piece. My girlfriend started posting, vague but obvious to anyone who knew us. "Some people can't handle a woman with ambition. Lost someone who is too scared of my growth." It got engagement. Her follower count climbed to around 160 from the attention. And then I found out something that completely recontextualized that Tuesday dinner conversation. Through a peripheral connection, someone I knew from college who had a contact at her former agency, I learned that she hadn't quit her job. She'd been let go 2 weeks before that Tuesday dinner. The reason? She'd been using the company's social media accounts to post personal content on company time. The agency had given her a quiet exit, no formal termination on record, a mutual separation agreement, because they didn't want the HR headache. She had never told me any of this. She had walked into that dinner and presented her decision to quit as this bold, courageous leap. She'd framed it as ambition, as vision, as something I should be honored to support. It was a cover story. She'd lost her income and spent 2 weeks engineering a situation where I was the financial landing pad she needed. That was the moment I stopped second-guessing a single decision I'd made. Here's what I did with that information. I didn't post about it. I didn't send it to her followers. I made one move, focused and quiet. I knew through things she'd mentioned over the previous months that a few people in her life were actively considering giving her money. Her aunt had talked at a family event I'd attended about investing in her niece's dreams. 2 of her college friends had been approached about contributing to her brand launch. I contacted all 3 of them, privately, individually. I didn't say a single inflammatory thing. I sent each of them the same package, the credit card statements from the joint account showing the charges she'd made during the months she'd stopped paying rent, and a simple factual timeline when she actually lost her job, when she presented me with a support agreement, when I left. No editorializing, just documents. Her aunt pulled back. Both college friends declined to give money. One of them, apparently more direct than I'd realized, told my girlfriend exactly what she'd been sent. My girlfriend posted a meltdown on her story about people trying to destroy her brand and betrayal from unexpected places. Her follower count went up to 203 from the drama. But here's the thing about follower counts. They don't pay $1,850 a month in rent. She lost the apartment at the end of the lease term, 30 days after I'd already been gone. She moved back to Cincinnati, into her mother's house. The ring light, the $900 camera, the courses, all of it went with her to a spare bedroom in the suburbs. The last I heard through someone who mentioned it casually, without realizing they were updating me, she was applying to marketing jobs again. I genuinely hope she finds one. I mean that without any edge to it. She's not incompetent. The agency had actually liked her work before the misuse issue. She just convinced herself that the shortcut was the strategy and that the right person in her life would absorb the cost of that gamble indefinitely. I wasn't that person. My studio is small. I have a real bed now instead of a borrowed air mattress. I'm saving more money every month than I ever did when I was covering 2/3 of a 2-bedroom apartment. I go to the gym at 6 a.m. because there's no schedule to coordinate around anyone else. It's a strange thing, realizing how much bandwidth you get back when you're only responsible for yourself. The only thing I'd do differently is cancel that joint credit card about 6 months earlier, when the signs were already there and I was choosing to look past them. I believe in you, and I will fund you indefinitely with no accountability are not the same sentence. Anyone who needs you to treat them as identical is the problem, not your lack of support. If you read this whole thing and didn't bail halfway through, you clearly have the patience and emotional fortitude to handle whatever comes next. So hit subscribe because this kind of thing apparently keeps happening to me.